Hey Shantz, it's Erica in counseling again. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to overcome some of those nervous or anxious thoughts that you might have when we're going up to something like a test, or if we have to do a group presentation. Sometimes those are a big stressor for a student, and I want to make sure that you can try to do this one thing to be well prepared. So whenever we're starting to have those thoughts of I'm going to fail a test, or I'm going to mess up what I'm going to say with this presentation, or I'm going to forget all of my words, those are all examples of thoughts that you might tell yourself. So those also are examples of negative thoughts, things that you're telling yourself and then you might start believing. So when we start thinking about things that might be negative or scary to us, a lot of times we start believing those negative thoughts, whether they are true or false. So I want you to recognize how your thoughts that you put into your head actually impact your feelings and emotions, and then the actions that follow after that. So the first thing I want you to recognize is what a thought is. A thought is just basically those words or phrases that come in and out of your head throughout the day, and stuff pops into your mind all the time, but it just all matters on what we tell ourselves. Your feelings, those are emotions. So things like being happy or sad or comforted, angry, irritable, those are all examples of emotions or feelings. And then I want you to think about actions. So we're going to think about how our thoughts and feelings actually impact our actions or our behaviors. So, something like going for a walk, that could be considered an action, or going to the library and studying, that could be considered an action as well. What I want you to do is think about some kind of topic that is actually bothering you, something that you maybe can't get out of your mind, and how it impacts your day. So I'll give you one example. So for me, it would be that I'm going to mess up a presentation and that I'm not going to remember anything that I was supposed to say. So for me, that would be the thought. It's kind of a scary thought, right? The emotions that typically might come up for that are something like being terrified, being shy, being unsettled or uneasy, even frustration. And then because of those thoughts and emotions, that leads to me having typically negative actions. Something like I give up and I leave the library and go back home and don't want to practice anything about the presentation. Something like I might totally skip the presentation and then end up failing that grade. Or I might even get real anxiety and maybe even have a panic attack. So those are all undesirable actions, things that all started and created by my negative thought that I was going to forget what I was going to say in that presentation. So when I put that thought into my head, it actually made my actions and my emotions negative. So what I want you to do is, if you're thinking about things like that that are negative, ask yourself, is this true? Is this real? Am I really going to stand up there and forget all my lines and forget all the talking points that I had? Or is that just a negative thought? So if there's any chance at all that it is false or might not be true, I want you to think about how you can turn that into a different phrase. Think about new thoughts, new feelings, and new behaviors or actions. It's important to make sure that they are attainable and they can be true, and that they're also going to help you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. I want you to think about practicing or saying to yourself, well, if I go to the library and I practice my presentation, then I'll know all my talking points. So for me, saying something like that gives me a different kind of emotion. It makes me feel comforted. It makes me feel prepared if I actually go and do those things. And I might be a little bit nervous or scared, but not terrified like I was with my original thought. So what's my action going to be after I tell myself that? Well, I'm probably going to go to the library and I'm going to practice with a friend, or I may go ask my professor for help. Another reframed thought could be that, hey, all the other people in this class have to do the same thing and they're probably just as nervous. So again, that makes me feel comforted. That makes me feel that I'm not alone. I don't feel isolated. With that, it might help me to better stand up in front of other peers that are in my class and really know that, hey, they're in the same position. So my behavior would change and I would not skip the presentation in that aspect. A last thought that I might have is thinking that, hey, this experience is going to help me for the future. You know, there were things that I didn't know how to do when I was younger, like throw a ball, or I was terrible at sports. But once you started practicing and gaining that experience, it helped me. So again, that's going to make me feel like I can do something that I didn't want to do. So when I think about all the times that I've practiced, it's going to make me feel brave. It's going to make me feel accomplished. It's going to make me feel like I know what I'm doing. And so hopefully with that, my action and my positive thought are going to help me to pass the assignment, ease some of my nerves, be able to stand up and give that presentation, and might even help me to say to myself, hey, I know all of these talking points because I've practiced. So those are just a few tips that I have for thinking about how your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, if they're negative, might push you down a negative path. If they're more positive, it might help you to strive for things and overcome your fears. So I wish you luck, and hopefully that was a quick tip that can help you out in the future.